Hey everybody, welcome to Stagsby Fixin'. Today we are doing a little table refinish. We're doing a faux finish actually. What to make it look like, and this wood isn't that pretty, or it's finger jointed, so we don't really want to enhance those features. And I decided not to do full paint, and I want to do a faux finish on the top and make the wood look like some wood that's a little bit more, pretty and like a full solid piece. So stay tuned, I'll show you how I achieve that. So we have a big flat surface here, and things get stuck to it, tape, little kids, crayon, all of that. So I like to take my 5-in-1 or putty knife, whatever you want to use, and just kind of go down and scrape anything off the top. All right, now I'm just going to take my duster brush and run it down real quick before I scuff this up with some sandpaper. All right, so we're pulling out these handy degreaser wipes. Some people like TSP or soap and water and scrub it down. I think these work just fine. As far as cleaning goes, and these actually save you time because you don't have to mix anything, and it's less cleanup. You just take them right out of the package, wipe them down. Right here I'm just taking one of these wipes, wrapping it around my 5-in-1, and just kind of showing you guys how to get in these tough edges and corners that you wouldn't be able to get into just using your hand. Alright, so we got it all wiped down with our wipes, and just taking some 150 grit sandpaper and just kind of going over the top real quick, nothing extensive. And we'll just take our sandpaper, run down all the edges, make sure everything's scuffed up and cleaned off. Alright, so we got the bulk of our sanding done. Now we're just going to break out the duster brush again. If you got a vacuum handy, that works well. Take a tack rag and wipe it down before we start applying our primer. Another thing that's important is you're going to want to change out the cardboard underneath, or wipe it off, vacuum it off as much as possible. Alright, so that's all prepped out, and now we get to take our primer. I'm just using some cover stain, rattle can. The next one I might fire up my sprayer just to have a video using that, but I figure most people don't have sprayers, so I like to use rattle cans to kind of help you guys at home that maybe want to do this stuff yourself. So let me know in the comments if you want me to use a sprayer next time. So we're just taking primer, first coat of primer. I'm not spraying too heavy. We're just getting a nice solid base coat of primer on, and then we can go around and run our spackle and take care of any major voids, major defects. Alrighty, so now we have our first coat of primer all sprayed out, and I'm just taking some 220 sandpaper and running it down really lightly. I'm going to sand every inch of this thing, and I'm just making it smooth. So something I like to do is just kind of follow with the palm of my hand, nice and flat on the surface, and I can kind of feel how smooth it is. Helps me not to miss any spots. When you're feeling the whole surface, you kind of feel that everything's smooth instead of just relying on the paper to do it. So of course, after we do our quick sanding, we're going to take out our duster and dust off all that sanding dust we caused. And after we dust it, we're going to for sure take our tack rag, give it a quick wipe down. Alright, with our newly cleaned surface, we're going to go ahead and take some basic spackling paste. All the voids on this table are very small. You probably can't even see them, through the camera lens, but they're pinhole size, or there might be a small dent that's barely noticeable. But I want to go ahead and just get those all filled up and sanded just to alleviate any concerns that they might show through on the final finish. If there was a bigger section, a bigger gouge, I would use some Bondo or something a little more heavy duty. But these are so small, there's no need for that. And also I'm going to be putting, multiple coats, another coat of primer after this spackle, and then multiple coats of color and finish that should fill everything very well. I must have forgot to record, but we went ahead and sanded down all the spackle marks on the top, the sides, everywhere I put spackle on. and now I dusted it off and I'm wiping it down with a tack rag again. And while I'm wiping it down, I'm also looking to make sure I didn't miss any voids that I need to fill. And I'm going to go ahead and refill those, resand, and then we're going to do our final coat of primer. Alright, so we have everything pretty much prepped out the way we like, and I'm going ahead and adding a final coat of primer here. We're going to do a nice solid coat of primer here. We're going to look at hitting every single inch with the primer. We want to make sure all of our spackle is covered, and every bit of this table has another layer of primer on it. We don't want to be putting any paint products over spackle or over bare wood. It's just not going to last as well as it does with a nice solid coat of primer. So I always prime before I spackle or caulk, and I also prime after I put spackle on something before I put paint on top of it. It's always just a good rule of thumb, and it's something I've been doing for years, and I've eliminated customers calling me back to redo something because of following this process and doing things that I think are the correct way, and using products the way they were designed to be used. I think is a very important aspect to make things last and make things look good as well. Alright, so we're done with our bulk prep, and now we are finally getting into some color. You see, I like to spray a little bit on the cardboard before I actually spray it onto the surface I'm applying it to. That just gives me an idea of what my spray fan is going to look like, and it's also, I'm going to make sure this can isn't defective, right? Sometimes you buy these spray cans and they just kind of explode. You can get a defective can, so always do a test spray. Even with my airless sprayer, I do a test spray to make sure I like how the spray fan is coming out, and adjust or change if I have to. Alright, so I'm just taking my masking machine here. I have a roll of plastic set up on it. If you don't have a masking machine, then you could just get they sell rolls of plastic, Home Depot, paint stores, wherever. That's what I'm doing here to protect the black. The black's all finished, so I want to make sure no overspray and no other material gets on it, because I don't want to have to repaint it. So we're going to protect that and then start coating the top. Alright, so now we're going to start with the first, what I would refer to as the base color. When I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do when I started this. I had an idea, and it just kind of came out and fell together. And I started with the idea of giving the surface kind of a reddish tone, a little bit towards mahogany. I've always liked woods that kind of had a more reddish tone on them. So I just kind of picked up a spray can I saw in the paint store that had, close to the color that I was looking for, and figured I would give that a try. Alright, so we finished spraying the first coat. I put a pretty decent coat on there. Now I'm just taking an older, kind of a dried up brush, and I had the thought to do like a graining, give it a grain effect, right? I'm trying to do a faux finish here, so wood has grain in it, and I figured to make it look realistic, I should fake some grain in it, right? So I'm just kind of going down, playing with the paint, playing with the brush, and just trying the best I can to give it that grain effect. I'm a professional in the sense of remodeling, painting, buildings, houses. I haven't done a lot of faux finishes over the years, so this is all, I'm kind of winging it. I know how to put the materials and the products on, but as far as the artistic aspect, I'm kind of new to it. So I'm kind of winging it as I go. I'm very happy with how the results turned out, but this is just me playing with it. I could always sand and repaint if I had to. So I'm just kind of doing what I think is the best way to achieve the results that I want. and it seemed to work out pretty well. Alright, so it's a new day, and this is the table when it's actually dry. You can see the orange darkened up quite a bit. And I had this idea to spray this tan over it. I wanted to add a little more brown into the table. So I went ahead and I put this kind of that tan paint, and I'm trying to drag the paint around and give it that streak and blotchy look. Alright, so now we're back with the tan, and you can see it covered up quite a bit of the orange, a little more than I was hoping. But I had the idea I'm going to take the orange back over it, and instead of spraying a solid full coat, I'm going to mute it with this rag. I'm using this rag right here, and I'm kind of wiping it around, using the paint more as like a stain rather than painting it solid like you would with an actual paint. It's kind of doing what I want. It's not coming out super orange, and the wiping with the rag is actually revealing a lot of that tan underneath. So this made me very happy as I was doing it, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Just until, there's really no right or wrong way. It's all about what you want it to look like. The right and wrong with this is, applying the materials correctly in the correct process. But with this artistic aspect, it's what do you want it to look like? What do you want to look at, right? So I'm just kind of adding and taking away what I think it needs to get it ready for my stain. All right, now we're getting the stain going, and we're just kind of going right over the top of our orange and our tan. And I'm just using some walnut and wiping it on. I'm not putting a lot of material at first because I want to see how the stain absorbs. Alright, so we let that first coat of stain dry, and this is actually the second coat of stain that I'm applying. You can see it's darkening up a little bit. I probably could have left the stain on a little bit longer and then did the wipe off game after a few minutes, and it would have left it a little bit darker. But like I said, I'm winging the artistic aspect of this, and I'm just taking my time trying to get an idea of what it's going to look like depending on how much stain I put on there. So I'm just kind of going around, putting a second coat, seeing if I like the results of adding one more layer of stain to darken it up. And you can see how it's darkening up on the side I've put the stain on already, and the left side is where I haven't put any. So you can kind of see it darkening up, and I feel like we're getting close and I'm almost there. Alright, so after that second coat, it was just taking too long to get where I wanted, and I finally just dipped my rag way into that bucket and put it on there, and this is what it started to come out like. And I say, you know what, this is the look I am going for. Alright, so I'm using this product. It's called Triple Thick. It's a water-based polyurethane. You always want to mix it with a stick. You don't want to shake these. And it's called Triple Thick. I'm going to put multiple coats on it. That's a marketing thing to try to say you can put one coat instead of three, but I'm going to put multiple coats of polyurethane because that's what I feel it needs to be very well protected. It's going to be a table. A lot of things are going to go on it, so I want a nice thick layer of clear coat on this thing. Yep, and we're just going to go ahead and apply our polyurethane. Like I said, it's called Triple Thick, but I'm actually doing 3 coats of Triple Thick. So, in theory, that's 6 coats according to them. 3 coats minimum. I think it needs to last a long time, be well protected. I don't want to have to recoat this thing with clear coat in a couple years, so I'm going to add more coats than what the label's telling me, and let it dry very well. Little light sand between each coat, and this is just me brushing this thing on, and that's pretty much it, and that's our final table. Alrighty, and that pretty much concludes this project. I appreciate all you guys watching. I hope I was able to give you some helpful tips, pointers, and maybe you can do this yourself, or maybe just enjoyed watching me do the table. Whatever it is, I appreciate you watching, and just leaving you with a couple final shots of the finished product. I'm pretty happy with how it came out, as far as being a fake stain on top, and I also love the two-tone. I'll see you guys soon.